recently began reading these scary stories online. It first began with the usual Reddit stories on the NoSleep subreddit. Some were just plain dumb and made absolute no sense, while some actually scared the living daylights out of me. There was this one story I remember that I still recall mentioning a small girl that died in the closet of her room. As a form of punishment, the girl's father used to lock her up in her closet whenever he felt like it. Reading stories never really affected me in any way. They were simply a way for me to get my mind off of my own personal problems. But what freaked me out next still haunts my mind to this day. As I was reading the story, it was an hour past midnight and both of my parents had left to attend a wedding and I was home alone. Just to clarify a bit more, I was 18 and had no siblings or pets to keep me company. Anywho, I know reading scary stories at this late hour is pretty insane, but I felt like reading something, and what better than some scary stories keep you awake at night. After reading the story about the girl and how she died, I kid you not, I swear on my life that when I looked towards my closet, I caught a glimpse of what looked similar to the little girl's appearance in the story I had just read, dressed in a white shirt with a large red stain on it. It looked straight at me with despair and sadness. I have no idea if my imagination was taking the better of me or not, but it felt very real and definitely sent chills down my spine. I immediately lunged back and gave out a small shriek. I quickly closed my eyes and kept them like that for a few seconds, only to realize that nothing was there anymore. I got off my chair and started walking around my house, turning on all the light switches and lamps there were. I turned on the television to create some noise to help me reduce my fear and anxiety. Hearing another voice on the TV helped me calm down a little, but I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I was never one to believe in such things before, but after that incident I began to wonder if ghosts and paranormal beings were actually real or not. To my horror, I simply did what any normal person would do. I started researching about this. And yes, it was very late in the night, but it wasn't like I was going to fall asleep anytime soon. After researching a little, I came across a few videos on YouTube about true scary stories. You'd think that after what I just witnessed, I would come to my senses and just forget about it, but no, I just couldn't. I stumbled upon something called a Ouija board that could be used to contact spirits. I started watching videos on how people use the Ouija board. Some of them looked fake, but some looked real, so I decided to try it myself. However, it was 2 a.m. in the morning and my parents still hadn't come home. I started worrying about it for a while, but I had other problems to deal with right now. I checked out the layout of a Ouija board and started copying it down on paper, and then I cut out a piece of circle as the planchette. I didn't really know how to start communicating with the spirits, so I started watching seances. Most of the videos started off with the medium speaking to the spirits, asking them whether they can hear the medium, then crazy things start happening. I followed every procedure they did with my faulty and homemade Ouija board.
If any spirits are around, can you please contact me by giving me a sign?
I waited a couple seconds, but got silence. Suddenly, our home phone started ringing really loud. I jumped up, scared and startled like a cat. I was hesitant on whether or not to pick up the phone. Then I saw the caller ID as it read, Dad, and I wondered why he would call exactly at 3 a.m. I quickly picked it up as I was scared for my life.
Hello, Dad?
I asked nervously.
Hey buddy, why are you still up? I wanted to say we won't make it back tonight, so you don't have to wait up for us. You will hear from us in the morning. We love you.
His voice shook in sorrow.
Okay then, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Love you. Bye.
I replied. I assumed the homemade Ouija board didn't work, so I finally went to bed. I took one last glance at the time, and it read 3:13 a.m. I closed my eyes and fell asleep shortly. I quickly reached for my phone, thinking it was my parents, but unfortunately it was from the hospital.
We're sorry to have called this early in the morning, but we're sorry to inform you that Mr. and Mrs. K have tragically passed away. They were declared dead at 2:51 a.m. We are deeply sorry for your loss.
I never liked doctors. Course, Dad was one, but that didn't help. Mom was always never there, always away at some corporate meeting or job, which meant most of the time it was just me in the house. I had no brothers or sisters, despite my constant pleas. There were 3 curious incidents which have caused my fear. The first was when I was about, say, 6. I woke up at 9 and still groggily, I got up. Now listen, cause this is important. Since I was 3 till about 4 years ago, I slept horribly. Even though I slept all night, I always woke up tired and drained. No amount of pills or music would help. Even my dad was clueless, though I don't think he tried very hard. He gave me pills which he said would help, but they did nothing. I took them anyway on his insistence. My grades suffered, but I learned to live with it. I scratched my head and took a shower like my father taught me. He had drilled good hygiene habits into my head, so I always washed first thing I got up. When I walked back to my bed, there was a bloody imprint on the pillow. I obviously puzzled over why it was there, thinking futilely it was a tasteless prank, but then I realized the red stain was exclusively in the area my head rested. I looked at my nails. There were flecks of red under them. When I went to Dad about it, he brushed it off and took the pillowcase away for washing. He told me it would be our secret. The second curious incident happened when I was older, maybe 9. I was waiting at the kitchen while Dad worked away at the dining table on some medical notes. It had been a few minutes, and he hadn't acknowledged me or probably even noticed me. He got up and walked away, and in a spat of rebellion, I decided to read his notes while he was gone. They were hard to read for a 9-year-old, so I skipped to the conclusion, skimming over the words cranium, incision, and sedative. The words are still burned into my mind. After almost allowing the subject to wake up, the sedative dose will be upped. As of last night, I will prove my colleagues wrong and show that our goal does in fact reside in the head. I was stopped by a hand on my shoulder and another flipping the notes. Did you read these? In another bit of rebellious behavior, I lied through my teeth. No, father, it looks so boring. He looked at me skeptically, then said that I needed to have another pill. In my final act of rebellion for a long time, I palmed the pill. I suspect, looking back, that this had not been the first time I'd seen his notes. The third and final occasion was when I was 12. It was pure luck and coincidence. I had been up late with Mother, who was home on one of her rare visits. Exhausted, I stumbled up to bed. I was in a state where thought was difficult, so on instinct I grabbed my pills to eat before bed. Without realizing, I instead grabbed some tasteless white sweets Mother had gotten me, and barely noticed the unusual sweet taste before going to sleep. For the first time in living memory, I dreamed. It was a horrid nightmare, filled with white lights and cloaks, sharp knives, and all throughout a crippling, searing pain above my neck. When I woke up, I found nothing unusual. It was later than normal, and as I rushed to the shower, I barely even noticed that my actual pills were missing. Getting into the shower, just before turning on the water, I saw a message written in red on one of the glass doors. As the water pounded down, I managed to read it before it disappeared. Take your pills, don't complain, and pray Father finds what he's looking for. It was only afterwards that I realized it had been in my handwriting. After a few more years of obedience, I began sleeping easier. Father was ecstatic, though I suspect he had another reason, and became much warmer and kinder. The pill dosage stopped, and no more strange incidents occurred. Yet still, even now I have the occasional nightmare of men in white coats, sharpened scalpels, and nameless tortures, and the occasional phantom pain in the back of my neck.